Hey folks, this is Jared at Nintendo World Report with a short preview of the Grandia HD collection. We saw the game at E3 and recorded the gameplay you are seeing now. Grandia HD collection consists of two games. The first is of course Grandia 1, which was originally released for the Sega Saturn in 1997 and ported to the Sony PlayStation a little over a year later. The other game in the collection is Grandia 2, which originally debuted on the Sega Dreamcast and would release afterwards on the PlayStation 2 and PC. It's worth noting that Grandia 2 was re-released on PC in 2015, that version under the name Grandia 2 Anniversary Edition, and that's the version being ported to the Nintendo Switch. Both games were originally developed by Game Arts, who famously made the Lunar series of RPGs. Both Grandia 1 and 2 were critically acclaimed at their original releases. Both games have battle systems that are somewhat reminiscent of the classic active time battle system found in multiple Final Fantasy games. It's worth noting that there are not random battle encounters. Much like Chrono Trigger, you can see the enemies on the map and try to avoid them. Takeshi Minagawa, director of game publishing at Gung-Ho, was the person demonstrating the games for us. One thing we learned prior to speaking with him is that the remaster of Grandia 1 is being developed using the PlayStation 1 programming code as opposed to the Sega Saturn code. As I mentioned earlier, Grandia was originally released on the Saturn, and it's well known that the PlayStation 1 version has a few deficiencies. Examples include a lower frame rate and some missing effects, like certain areas missing 2D backgrounds. I inquired as to why the PlayStation code was being used as opposed to the Sega Saturn code. I even asked, had the Sega Saturn code been lost? The decision to use the PlayStation code stems from the complexity of the Sega Saturn hardware. The Sega Saturn was not an easy system to program for. To get the most out of the hardware meant writing code that specifically utilized the system's two Hitachi processors and also the dual video display processors. Gung-Ho's Minagawa told us that utilizing the code written for the Saturn would have been very difficult and that it made more sense to use the PlayStation version as a starting point. However, the development team at Sickhead Games who are making the HD collection are still using the Sega Saturn version as a reference point. Gung-Ho made the following statement to the website RPG Site regarding this manner. This is what they told them. We want to be clear, the Grandia HD collection are not ports of the original PlayStation games. They are remasters. We are using the original PlayStation code of Grandia, but working with the Sega Saturn version to craft the definitive version of this beloved RPG. The team is primarily using the Saturn version as a reference point, working to match details and effects from that version of the game. I'm looking forward to having both Grandia 1 and 2 on the Nintendo Switch. I personally never got to play these RPGs, but have always been extremely interested in them. Sickhead Games and Gung-Ho are working hard to make both titles look nice on an HD display, and both are being configured to run in widescreen for the first time. Sadly, there is no option in Grandia 1 to use the original unaltered sprites. It's also worth noting that these ports will have new French and German translations for people who want to play in those languages. To be clear, that's only for the written text. The voice acting will still be in either Japanese or English. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more Grandia footage, please check out the links in the info section, where you can see up to 19 minutes of gameplay.